What happens when a tradition isn't broken, but is courageously reinterpreted? When a pope doesn't back down, but doesn't impose either? When decisions don't divide, but demand maturity? And when change doesn't come with shouts, but with the firmness of a phrase, "Celibacy is a gift, not an obligation." There was no forced decree. There was no spectacle. Just a gesture that opened a door closed for centuries. A pope who chose to listen before acting. Priests who didn't ask for power, but for understanding. And a church that, for the first time in a long time, decided to look at itself with humanity. Can a single declaration change history without breaking its roots? Can fidelity exist without rigidity? Can love for God's call and love for the human heart walk side by side? It began quietly. A single moment, Pope Leo XIV standing before a silent crowd at St. Peter's. His voice carried not anger, but compassion. Celibacy is a gift, freely chosen, not forcibly imposed. Those words echoed through the marble and into every heart watching, across the world, but not everyone was ready to embrace it. In the back pew, Cardinal Luis Tagle clutched a sealed letter, its edges marked with a symbol nearly forgotten, the Angelus seal. Inside was written only one cryptic phrase: "He who loosens the old awakens the hidden." Luis Tagle knew what it meant. The whispers in the archives, the third secret of Fatima, perhaps not fully told. And now, was the prophecy unfolding? Reports spread fast. Priests wept, some in joy, others in fear. Bishops debated behind closed doors. The Vatican press office rushed to calm the storm. But then came something no one expected. Sister Bernadette, cloistered in Portugal, collapsing. Mid-prayer, crying out, "The secret is alive. The bride is trembling." What secret? What trembling? Was this coincidence or divine timing? Inside the Apostolic Palace, Pope Leo XIII sat alone, reading the day's reports. Outside, lightning flashed above the Vatican obelisk, splitting its tip and sending shards to the ground. Some said it was a warning, others a blessing, and as Tagle approached the papal chambers, envelope in hand, he whispered, "Holy Father, you have opened a door. But to what?" The Pope looked up, calm yet piercing. "To mercy, Luis, and to war we cannot see." And in that moment, one question burned in every soul. Is this the dawn of renewal, or the first trumpet of purification? The Vatican bells rang without reason at midnight. Monks claimed to see a figure in white walking the garden, though the Pope was inside his room. A statue of St. Peter shifted mysteriously to face east. And for the first time in decades, bishops from opposing factions locked themselves in heated debate that lasted until sunrise, because this wasn't about politics. It was about the soul of the Catholic Church. Would celibacy remain a cherished gift? Or would it now be a choice, a call heard in freedom, not fear? And deeper still, was this decision simply human wisdom? Or something written long ago in Eidam, the heavenly scroll of prophecy? Even as the faithful prayed and wept, even as Rome buzzed with speculation, one thing was clear: the Church had crossed a threshold that would not close again. And somewhere in the silence, Sister Bernadette, pale and trembling, whispered a final phrase before fainting again. "The bride will be purified, but only through fire." Cardinal Luis Tagle stood in the quiet of the Apostolic Archive, the Angelus seal envelope trembling in his hands. The air around him felt heavier than stone, as if the very saints buried beneath St. Peter's were holding their breath. He broke the seal, slowly, reverently, and unrolled a single page of yellowed parchment. The words were short, but they shook him to the core. "When the bond of flesh is loosed by mercy, the hidden war shall rise. The bride will be purified, but through fire and division her heart shall be tested." Tagle's lips moved silently. purified through fire. At that same moment, Pope Leo XIV knelt in his private chapel, praying before the crucifix of San Damiano. His voice was steady, yet tears rolled down his cheeks. "Lord, I do this not to break your house, but to heal your servants. If this be error, correct me. If this be courage, sustain me." Then it came, an unexpected knock. A Swiss guard stepped in, pale and trembling. "Holy Father, the bells, they are ringing again, but no one has touched the ropes." The Pope rose. Together they stepped into the darkened hallway. The basilica bells tolled violently, echoing through Rome, though every ringer's post was empty. Outside, lightning laced the sky, striking the dome of St. Peter's and splitting an ancient stone cross on its summit. The Pope whispered only one word: "Signum," a sign. Back in Portugal, Sister Bernadette awoke from her fainting spell, with eyes like fire. "Tell the Pope, the scroll is opening, the second woe approaches." She collapsed again, leaving only stunned nuns murmuring the rosary through tears. Inside the Vatican, factions gathered in secret. Some priests praising Leo's courage, others accusing him of betrayal. An ancient faction, unseen for decades, emerged from the shadows. The Custodes Arcani, the keepers of the secret, claiming that Pope Leo's declaration had triggered the very prophecy locked away since Fatima. Their leader, an elderly cardinal wrapped in black, declared, "We told them, loosen one bond and another far darker will break free." But Cardinal Tagle, clutching the prophecy page, felt no fear, only resolve. Perhaps this is exactly what heaven intended. The next morning, the world awoke to stunning news. Priests in 3 continents reported visions the night after Leo's decree. Some saw the bride of Christ weeping, others saw her clothed in fire but not consumed. One elderly monk described hearing a voice: "The shepherd has spoken mercy. Now the wolves will rise." And rise they did. Underground groups, powerful and hidden, began orchestrating resistance, spreading documents, whispering of schism, preparing for what they called the Great Correction. They vowed to defend tradition at any cost, even against the Pope himself. Yet, in the same hour, thousands of lay faithful poured into St. Peter's Square, kneeling under open skies, chanting, "Mercy and truth have kissed." 2 worlds, 1 church, now colliding like thunder. Tagle finally confronted Pope Leo XIII. Their meeting behind closed doors was brief, but history-changing. "Holy Father, this prophecy, it speaks of fire, division, and the purification of the bride." The Pope looked deep into Tagle's eyes, his voice calm yet heavy. "And do you believe, Luis, that we are strong enough to walk through fire?" Tagle hesitated, then bowed his head. "Only if heaven walks with us." The Pope stood, gripping the edge of his staff. "Then let the fire come, but let it be the fire that refines, not destroys." That evening, a mysterious celestial sign appeared over Rome, a luminous ring circling the moon, crimson at its edges. Astronomers called it a rare halo phenomenon. The faithful called it something else, the crown of warning. And deep below the Vatican, in a chamber sealed since 1917, an iron door creaked open for the first time in a century.
Inside lay a chest marked simply, Mater Ecclesia, for the time of trial. Its lock was broken. No human hand had done it. The purification had begun, and the bride of Christ would soon face the most mysterious, apocalyptic, and glorious
trial since Calvary. The chest inside that sealed chamber was ancient, carved with symbols only Vatican archivists recognized. The Chi-Rho crossed with 7 flames. Dust fell like snow as it was lifted from the shadows into the light of a single flickering lamp. The Custodes Arcani gathered, whispering prayers, half in awe, half in fear. Cardinal Luis Tagle stepped forward. His hands trembled, not from age, but from the weight of eternity pressing on his soul. He lifted the lid, and there, wrapped in crimson silk, lay a manuscript bound in black leather. Across its cover, one phrase burned into the hide: Ecclesia purificanda, per ignem et lacrimas. The church purified, through fire and tears. Tagle unrolled its first page and gasped. It described events uncannily mirroring Pope Leo XIV's decree. When the bond once imposed is freed in mercy, the bride shall tremble. Angels will contend, nations will rage, and the house of Peter shall be sifted like wheat. He staggered back, whispering, This is Fatima's hidden page." At that same moment, Pope Leo XIV was in his chamber, staring at a crucifix worn smooth by centuries of prayer. His face was pale yet resolute. "Lord, if this is your will, I accept the fire, but let it burn away pride, not faith." Suddenly, the lights flickered. A wind, though every window was sealed, roared through the room, and a voice, not human, not earthly, echoed, "The shepherd has opened mercy. Now the flock will be scattered, but my rod will gather them again." Celibacy. Pope dropped to his knees, whispering, "Thy will be done." Outside, Rome erupted with signs. Pilgrims reported seeing the image of a weeping woman on the walls of the Lateran Basilica. A statue of St. Peter at the square allegedly turned its head slightly east again, witnessed by dozens. And on the Tiber, fishermen swore the water glowed. Red for an hour, though no one could explain why. News outlets exploded. Prophecy or coincidence, celibacy debate sparks Vatican miracles. Some mocked, some feared. But the faithful, they fell to their knees. The Vatican woke under a crimson dawn. The sky lit as though on fire, casting St. Peter's Square in an otherworldly glow. Pilgrims gasped, priests knelt where they stood, and even seasoned journalists hesitated to take a single photo. Something unseen pressed upon every soul, a weight too holy and too terrifying to describe. Inside the Apostolic Palace, Pope Leo XIV gripped his rosary tighter than ever before. The missing cardinals had not returned. Their apartments were stripped, bare, their personal archives gone. And on one wall, in red paint that chilled every observer, a single phrase was written: "The bride must bleed to be cleansed." Cardinal Luis Tagle arrived, pale and solemn, holding the prophecy manuscript to his chest. "Holy Father, this handwriting matches one of the missing cardinals. Cardinal M." He stopped, unable to speak the name, his voice cracking. The Pope closed his eyes. Then the man in scarlet has revealed himself. At noon, a letter arrived under strict secrecy, addressed only to the Pope, signed by a faction calling itself the Sword of Silence. The letter accused Pope Leo XIV of desecrating divine law and warned of a strike before the feast of St. Michael, a date only weeks away. The Vatican's security forces were doubled. Swiss guards stood at every corridor with weapons, ready. Yet, for all their vigilance, something greater than human conflict was unfolding. That night, the Pope led adoration in St. Peter's Basilica. Thousands knelt in silence before the Blessed Sacrament, tears falling onto marble floors. In that silence, it happened. A light, pure, white, and unearthly, burst forth from the monstrance. Witnesses reported a voice resonating through their hearts, not their ears. "My bride is my own. I will cleanse her. I will not abandon her." People cried aloud. Some fainted. Journalists captured footage, but cameras glitched, turning every image to static. The Vatican officially said nothing, but words spread faster than fire. A miracle had occurred. The next morning, a new horror shook the church. One of the missing cardinals was found dead, collapsed on the steps of the Lateran Basilica, clutching a bloodied crucifix. On his chest, pinned by a dagger, was another note: "This is only the beginning." Cardinal Tagle confronted Pope Leo XIV again. "Holy, Father, this is no longer politics or protest. This is war, spiritual war, manifested in flesh and blood. The Pope answered quietly, yet with heavenly fire in his voice. Then we will fight as the saints fought, may on our knees, with our hearts burning, and with truth that cannot die. He called an emergency synod, summoning bishops from across the world. But even as invitations were sent, Vatican intelligence reported coded transmissions between rogue clergy and a powerful financial network known to funnel billions into secret causes. These funds, intelligence revealed, were now aimed at correcting Rome. On the day of the emergency synod, storms rolled over Rome unlike any in memory. Lightning danced above St. Peter's while inside. Bishops argued, shouted, and wept. Some pleaded to reverse the Pope's celibacy declaration, while others defended it as a return to freedom of the heart. Then the power failed. Completely. Darkness swallowed the Sistine Chapel, save for one inexplicable light, the candle, at the altar of the Blessed Sacrament, which burned against the wind. Witnesses testified they saw a figure in white standing before it, hands outstretched as if in blessing. Though Pope Leo XIV was seated at the far end of the chapel, a bishop cried out, "Do you see him?" Others fell to their knees. Some fled the room entirely. Outside, thousands of faithful gathered with rosaries, singing the Salve Regina as thunder roared above. And then it happened. The sky ripped open with a sound like trumpets, and from horizon to horizon a massive cross of light appeared, hovering silently over Rome. News networks scrambled to broadcast it live. Scientists stammered explanations, but believers wept openly, shouting, "Christ has not abandoned his bride." In the midst of this heavenly sign, a phone buzzed on Cardinal Tagle's belt. He answered, his face turning pale. "Holy Father, the second missing cardinal. He's been found alive, but he is not alone. He's with them, the sword of silence, and they're calling for you, by name." Pope Leo XIV looked to the crucifix on the wall and whispered, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, even in fire." The meeting was set, a confrontation no one thought possible. Pope Leo XIV agreed to face the sword of silence, not with guards, not with weapons, but with nothing but the crucifix he held close to his heart. In a sealed chamber beneath St. John Lateran, he entered alone. There they were, masked figures. In scarlet, their leader cloaked in black, holding the stolen archives of the church. And beside them, the second missing cardinal, eyes hollow, chained, and trembling. The leader stepped forward. "Holy Father, you have betrayed tradition. You have loosened what heaven commanded to remain bound. The bride will bleed for this." The Pope raised the crucifix high. "No, the bride will be purified, but not by your hand, by his." The room shook. A deafening crack split the floor as light, blinding, white, and powerful, exploded from the crucifix. The masked men fell to their knees, screaming, their hoods tearing away as if pulled by invisible hands. Some fled. Some wept uncontrollably. The chained cardinal collapsed, whispering through tears, "Forgive me, Holy Father, forgive me." Then it came, like the sound of trumpets in the heavens. A voice, clear and undeniable. "This is my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it." Outside, the cross of light reappeared in the sky, brighter, blood red at its edges, dazzling beyond description. Pilgrims screamed, priests fell prostrate, and even skeptics wept. Openly, news cameras caught it, and for the first time in centuries, millions across the world prayed together in unison. Pope Leo XIV emerged from the chamber, face glowing with tears and resolve. He lifted the crucifix and cried out, "The bride will not fall, she will be purified, and she will shine again." And in that moment, as bells rang on their own across Rome, as doves circled St. Peter's dome in perfect formation, and as the storm clouds broke to reveal a radiant sun, the world understood. Heaven had chosen its side. The Church had entered a new era, not of fear, but of fire and faith.